Hi, everybody. It's so good to see you guys tonight. America is divided. We know this. We're reminded of this every day on our nightly news. They tell us this all the time. Now, my home state of West Virginia, we're no stranger to this division and polarity. We've known about it since day one, since our state was ripped out of the borders of what is present-day Virginia, back during the Civil War. And since then, West Virginia has experienced some deadly clashes from mining companies versus the workers who extract coal from our mountains. The Matewan Massacre is something that would come to mind. Now, when I was a seventh grader, I witnessed a culture clash over textbooks, where schools were bombed with dynamite and Molotov cocktails, school buses were riddled with bullets from snipers, and the Ku Klux Klan marched on our state capitol steps. Now, if these moments in West Virginia history are foreign to you, just know that we are the home for the nation's most notorious family feud, the Hatfields and McCoys. So, yeah, West Virginia knows a thing or two about division. But in this country, we're experiencing division by way of politics. And the Us and Them podcast covers this political division, but it's not what the show is all about. As a matter of fact, my staff, Joni Deutsch and Mitch Hanley, we're about unearthing and exposing these divisions. And we do this by asking questions. Why do Americans sort themselves into different camps of ideas? Why do we have red and blue states? And why do we tend to cluster in groups who think like we do and demonize those who think differently? Now, this sorting and clustering, it kind of reminds me of my high school days. Was there anybody in here who was a jock? Nerds? Brains? Theater geeks? All right, who are the proud stoners? Well, at my alma mater of George Washington High School, we had a unique us and them method of sorting each other. Either you were a Hiller or you were a Creeker.
In West Virginia, everything is a mountain, and the people with money, the lawyers and the doctors lived up at the top of the hill, and the plumbers and the electricians lived at the bottom of the hill.
If you wear camo, you're considered a creeker.
Levi's,
A hat and boots,
big belt,
and blue jeans.
Flannels all the time.
Hillers dressed in
Vineyard Vines brand, Patagonia brand.
docksiders and collared shirts.
The boys wear really short shorts and pink a lot.
The Hillers are in the advanced classes.
Kind of think that they're better than you.
Very well educated.
Almost all go to college.
Creekers went to technical school.
Creekers work all the way through school.
The creekers do the hard drugs.
The Hillers, they got so much money.
They get addicted to the drugs.
Drive a brand new Mercedes car, and they're 16 years old.
Creekers actually had nicer cars. They had hot rods because they worked on them.
They don't work after school.
Those are Hillers. They're the preppy kids.
The Creekers are
Uneducated.
The country people, like,
Dirt poor.
Well, their accents were a little thicker.
you're a redneck. We call them Creekers still.
They don't really call them Hillers anymore. They're kind of,
Preps.
they are very preppy.
And very rich.
but we're still Creekers.
Now, those are voices, past and present, from George Washington High School, and they assure me that this Hiller-Creeker dynamic is still alive and kicking. But I wanted to speak with someone who could take me back in time and in place to this Hiller-Creeker division. My friend Randy Thomas was then and still is a proud Creeker.
So, Randy, what the hell are we doing?
Well, I'm going to try to take you over here to where the Little League baseball field used to be.
But we're driving across a creek right now. We're driving across the creek.
Yeah, so?
That's okay.
I got to figure out how I'm going to turn around here.
All right, I'm in a big Ford pickup truck.
No, you are not. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna throw you out right here in the middle of this creek.
I'm in a Chevy pickup truck.
Yes. Gee, my knee. That's blasphemy. I'll never be your friend again.
I know you're lying. But we crossed a creek, and he didn't want to make a 3-point turn, so he backed up. And I thought, oh man, I don't know if I'd do that. But then again, I'm in the cab of a truck, of a professional driver.
A professional truck driver.
How one dressed was also a defining part of being a hiller or a creeker. Creekers often wore plaid flannel shirts. I remember one time, around this time at Christmas, my mother gave me a plaid flannel shirt, and I remember smiling and thanking her, knowing that I might wear this shirt at home or maybe at some family events, but as a hiller, I was not be caught dead at school because I'd be afraid I'd be seen as a creeker. So never underestimate the fear of ridicule in teenagers. Now, Randy and I have known each other since we were 7th graders at John Adams Junior High School.
My shoes came from Pickway.
To people who don't know, what's Pickway?
Pickway would be the equivalent of like Shoe Carnival now.
So like an inexpensive place to buy cheap shoes.
Very inexpensive. My tennis shoes growing up cost about $2 a pair. By the time I got to John Adams, I was wearing Converse, but I had to fight my parents to get them. I mean, they were just like, oh my God. And back then they were what, maybe $20 if that, and they just didn't see the value in it.
So just walk me through that a little bit. So basically, you went to school, and were you kind of a little bit embarrassed of your Pickway shoes, and that like, mom, dad, can I just at least have something that I'm not going to be laughed at or whatever. All these other kids have Adidas and Nikes, and you really had to kind of lean on your parents to let you get some shoes that is that. I feel like I've touched a nerve.
They didn't understand. I don't think they understood the difference. I ended up taking my own money, and I went and bought the Nike Cortez, I think is what they called it.
Yeah. The red stripe.
With the red swoop on it. Yeah. It's not a stripe, it's a swoop. I mean, Nike will let you know that. I think that shoe cost $35. I remember. I'd been working at the ballpark, and I'd crossed the hill over into South Park, caught the bus, went to Sport Mart on Courier Street in downtown Charleston, bought the Nikes, put them on before I ever left the store, and I styled and profiled and left there. Yes, sir.
Now, by the time I got to John Adams, I was conscious of brand name clothes and shoes because of one guy. Joey Minardi moved into my neighborhood right before we went to John Adams, and he was obsessed with brand name clothes and shoes. And he talked about it all the time, and he got me and my brother obsessed to the point where we bugged our mother so much that we had to go down and buy a pair of Adidas. So I'm in 6th grade, and I'm having trouble with some assignment, and I need to go to the front of the class to ask the teacher for some help. And as I'm going to the front of the class, Joey from the back of the room says, "Would the guy with the sorry Adidas please sit down?" And I snapped. I started screaming at him. Like, why is this such a big deal to you? Why do you need to care so much about my shoes? I mean, what is the point of this? And why do you have to be the one who has the best shoes? And he got up out of his seat, and we met and locked right in the middle of the classroom. And we started taking big swings at each other, big haymakers and roundhouse punches. And at one point he tackled me and he grabbed my ears like handles on a jug and started smashing my skull into the floor. And all of this over a pair of freaking Adidas. So I told Randy this story. And I also confessed to him that I remember being with Joey when I heard him making fun of Creeker kids for their Pickway specials.
We heard that. We heard that a lot. We got made fun of because we bought clothes at Kmart. Comments about our blue light specials.
But how did it make you feel?
Less than. I mean, we never really had a problem with clothes until we came to school up on the hill.
So Randy and I spent much of the afternoon driving around Loudondale, where he lived down on Davis Creek. And although I wasn't expecting Randy's reaction to my question about his shoes, I could understand why this was a tender memory for him. And I couldn't stop thinking, after he dropped me home at my mom's house, how it was that us Hillers made him feel about himself. So when I got inside, I was talking to my mom. She remembered Joey Minardi and his obsession with shoes. I started talking to her about it, but she was reluctant to talk to me on mic. And so much so, I made her cry.
I mean, yes, Joe was a bully. I don't want to say that. Joey had a lot of problems. Joey's clothes came from Goodwill, and he wasn't too damn proud of it. So if he got a pair of Pumas or whatever, you know, he was going to let the fucking world know about it.
He was nicely dressed off.
He was. She did a wonderful job. He tried to fit in. I mean, you know, the whole family was that way, trying to be something they really weren't. I mean, and I applaud her for it. I'm not looking down my nose. They didn't have money, but they presented like they did.
So here you have a Hiller and a Creeker, and neither one could afford the Adidas or Nikes that they both so desperately felt they needed to feel accepted. Nobody knew that Randy, the Creeker, bought his Nikes with his own hard-earned money. And nobody knew that Joey, the Hiller, wore secondhand clothes. Yet both of them struggled to come to terms with that feeling of being less than, or incomplete, or even worse, poor. Some of the differences that divide Americans are enormous and intractable. Abortion, gun rights, church-state separation, climate science. And with us and them, we have tried, or plan to try, to find ways to get both sides, to listen to both sides of these big, big issues. And we look forward to this challenge. But we have this idea that maybe a strategy to approaching these big issues might be learning how to understand these little differences, like the differences between Hillers and Creekers, or those who wear Nikes, Adidas, and Pumas, and those who wear Pickway specials. From West Virginia Public Broadcasting and PRX, we are us and them. We tell stories from America's cultural divides.